Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the worldwide ministry of Reverend John D. Couch. Reverend Couch is considered by many to be one of America's greatest preachers. He has traveled the world preaching the Word of God with power and deliverance. Reverend Couch says, "I do not preach sermons. I change lives through the Word of God." Many call him bishop, apostle, evangelist, pastor, but many are proud just to call him friend. And now, Reverend John D. Couch, known to his friends around the world as the Rev.
Hello, my friend. Thank you for joining us today. And I especially want to say I thank you for the response we received last week from all the emails, from all the information you sent us for our 3-day revival right here on the air. And I appreciate that very much. It was kind of you, and I thank you very much. And those of you that forgot to do anything, you can make it up. It's a beautiful day here in Mountain City. It's cold, rainy, and wet, but I'm inside and there's no leaks here and I'm doing really well. So I thank you for joining us today here in Mountain City, Tennessee. As usual, I want to make your invitation to our great camp meeting coming up August 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This is going to be a great camp meeting. People are already making their plans. They're already getting ready to start making their reservations. We found a new hotel this year to work with us. And it's closer to the Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn's rooms are $75 a night plus tax, which runs about $82, $83. The Days Inn right down from there, and this Days Inn, trust me, it has been totally, completely gutted and renovated. It's all new from door to door to door. They have a continental breakfast. They have a pool. They have great people that work there, great staff. They're very friendly. You can have a continental breakfast every morning, if I'm not mistaken. They have some fresh foods you can have there, but they have uh, some omelets or something like that that you can prepare for yourself. So I'm pretty sure they do, and they'll have the coffee, the tea, the drinks. It saves you like $10 for every morning on your meals for those of you that come. So we'll be giving all the information next week, and you can go to my website next week and you can see all this information right there. And we would ask that you start your registrations free and start getting your rooms locked in and ready to go, because they're $50 a night. Now that's unheard of. Just anywhere you go, that's an unheard of price. So we appreciate it if you go ahead and show the people we're going to show up and take care of the hotel. And it's a beautiful ground. It's up on a hill, got beautiful views. There's a walkway, but you could use it as a balcony, and you could sit out there. You can stand out there, look over the beautiful view, and we're excited about it. So we thank God for this information and for the way the people treated us when we went. We were well received, and they treated us really nice. So August 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Now we're going to have great meetings every day. We'll start out Wednesday night at 7. We have a Thursday night at 7, Friday and Saturday at 7. Thursday morning, Thursday night, or Thursday morning, Friday morning, Saturday night, we have a 10 o'clock meeting on the morning. And then on Saturday afternoon, we also have our great ministry to everybody. We're going to minister to everybody in the building at 2:30 that afternoon. Then we'll be back for our final service at 7. You don't want to miss these great meetings. God will be moving. I thank you for all the prayers you sent our way. We're praying, and before I begin to even minister today and begin to read the word for you, I want to tell you that God is getting ready to heal some of you as you watch this program tonight. Whether you're watching it live stream or you watch it Facebook or you go back to YouTube later on. And I would encourage you to please sign up to our YouTube. There's twofold reason, because if we get enough viewers, they'll pay us. When it says subscribe, that doesn't mean it costs you anything. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but every time we go on the air, if you'll give them your address, your email address, they'll send you notification that we're on the air. And if you'll go in and watch it, the more views we get, the more people that watch, the better off we are. And we want you to do that for us if you would at all. God is moving in great ways across our land and across our nation. And we really want you to be a part of this ministry. We want you to support us in your prayers and your finances. And we want you to be sure that you pray for us every day. It's very important and it's imperative. The ministries must go on. Everywhere I turn, I see ministries of great anointing, and I see them passing and leaving, go on, be with the Lord. And I said, that's great. No, we need to keep the generals alive. We need to keep people that are really pushing the gospel. We need to pray for them. We need to pray that God will enlarge their lives and increase their coast so they can be here and share the things that God has shared with us. I'm going to be reading to you from the book of Haggai. If you have your Bible, chapter 2, verse 19. Is the seed yet in the barn? Yea, as yet the vine and the fig tree, and the pomegranate and the olive tree hath not brought forth. From this day I will bless you. God was talking to a nation that he'd almost forsaken. And he said, the reason I have done this is because you have not planted seeds. Now, when we talk about seeds, most people will talk about money. I want to talk about some real seeds today. A lot of people don't understand that in order to have a harvest, you have to plant a seed. And if you don't plant a seed, you can expect no harvest. When you begin to talk about seeds, let's talk about a few seeds. Let's talk about the seeds of love. If you plant seeds of love, then you're automatically going to reap love. When we begin to talk about planting and reaping, we need to understand, be not mocked, God is not deceived, whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. There are things inside of you that you have kept and you haven't shared them with people. And in essence, you have not taken that seed from within you that God has given you and planted it. You've just become very selfish with it. When you begin to talk about knowledge and sharing, a lot of ministries don't share the seeds of knowledge that God has given them. So they know and they understand that they have a seed, but they haven't planted it. But that seed has to be planted somewhere. Everywhere you go, you find people that needs help. Let's talk about seeds just for a season. A lot of people, they have this thing now where you drive into a drive-in and a drive-through and the guy ahead of you pays and the next guy pays, whatever. But how many of you have ever really done things because you wanted to? Now, some of you will do this. You will do something for somebody because you feel led. Okay, that's great. Or you do it because of need. And that's wonderful. That's all right. But sometimes you just need to do something for people because you see in your spirit you want to do it. God shouldn't have to move on you to do things that you know to do. If you see someone that's struggling and you can help them, and you say, well, I've helped so many people and they didn't return it. So what? You still planted a seed. You still planted that seed. There's a seed of love that most people never share. I see people all the time that say, well, nobody ever does anything for me. Well, the question is, have you ever planted a seed and done something for others without regard to what you're going to get back? Have you ever just done stuff because you wanted to do it and didn't care whether you got it back or not? Have you ever planted a seed when you saw someone that was lonely or down in the valley or just looked like they didn't know where they were going to go? Have you ever planted that seed of joy? When you begin to plant joy in people's heart, it begins to return to you. It doesn't matter how much you pray and how much you fast. That's not your strength. The Bible says the joy of the Lord is your strength. Sometimes people just need you to give them that smile or to reach over and touch them or hold them for a moment. And when you plant that seed, someone will bring that seed back to you. A seed that is not planted will never grow. I remember one time we were having our kitchen cabinets changed, and they were about 20 years old. And when they took the cabinets out, there was a marigold, pack of marigold seeds, which is a beautiful flower that I love. And when that man pulled that thing back, somehow that seed had got packed in there in that little pack. And it was like 20, 25 years old. And I looked at that seed and I thought to myself, I just picked it up and I put it back. And I thought to myself, I wonder if that'll grow. I just wonder if it'll grow. It wasn't season yet. So when the season came, I remembered that pack of seeds. And I just went out and I just kind of scattered them around and just put a little dirt over them. And I just thought, I wonder if those seeds will grow. And it wasn't long until you could see those little buds coming up, and they turned out a beautiful gold. And I thought to myself, that's wonderful. And God spoke to me, the only seed that will not grow is the seed that is not planted. The things that you need in your life is not because of who you are, but whatever is in your life that you need help with, that's what you need to sow seeds in. When you have a marriage that's really a good marriage, you can plant seeds into other people's marriages, and it'll help their marriage. A lot of folks don't understand that when you begin to plant seeds, you have to plant them right. You just have to plant seeds right. I know I love my tomatoes, and every year I plant 8 or 10 little vines down here behind my office, and we have enough tomatoes usually to feed the whole neighborhood. But I know how to plant them. I plant them in good soil. I water them. I take care of them. Every 7 days, I put Miracle Grow on that. Thank you, Sue, because she told me that. I put Miracle Grow, just spray it on them. And we always have abundance of tomatoes. But some of you don't understand that when you plant a seed, you have to plant it correctly. Now, some of you go to teach people things, and you teach them with harshness. You teach them with cruelty. Well, that seed's not going to grow because it was on a solid rock. When you're planting something and you're taking your knowledge and you're pushing it on people in a way that is arrogant. See, a lot of people like to teach, but they like to teach arrogance. They don't like to say, I'm going to show you this so you'll be blessed. I'm going to show you this because I'm such a wonderful, intelligent person. No, teach those people out of kindness. Nobody learns from an attitude that's not correct. When you go to pray for people, you just don't jump up and say, I'm going to pray, that's it, it's over with. No, you get up and you have this attitude. I'm going to pray, and God's going to move for you. The way that you plant the seed in people's heart is the way they'll receive it. No one likes to be told what to do. I know nobody that I'm talking to wants to be told what to do. But if you plant a seed in those people's hearts and you use love and you use the things that God has given you, if someone comes to you and says, well, you're not frying that chicken right, then right away, you're not going to take any seed that they're planting from you. The seed is in your hand. It's in your barn or in your body. And when you go to plant that seed, you have to plant it properly. Any farmer will tell you there's a certain time you plant a seed, a certain way you plant a seed, and a certain way you teach, you tend that seed while it's growing. And if you don't tend it right, it doesn't grow right. There's a lot of us sitting here today that have lack in our life. There's certain things that we like. That we lack. Certain things that we don't have. And many times it's not the other people's fault. It's because we've kept the seed. So many people will take their lives and just close them back from everybody and never let anybody in. Well, when you go to plant seeds, you'll be harsh with that. When people begin to teach the things of God, they become harsh with it. You have to do this or you're going to hell. You have to do this or you're going to hell. Nobody's going to receive that because it's not planted correctly. Nobody I remember when we were little kids, we always planted potatoes. And I was always the guy that dropped the potato in because my brothers would go fertilize it and kick it over, drop the potatoes in, I'd come by and cover it up. There was a correct way to plant that seed. In everything you go to do, your attitude will decide. The way that you come at people will decide where that seed will ever grow or not. When you talk about seeds of love, some people never know love because they've never planted the seed of love. They don't understand it. One of my pastors told Sister Glenn and I one time, said, you all have the most love and compassion. And it amazes me that people have hurt you and done things wrong, but you still love them. You see, you never let other people affect the quality of your seed. I'm going to say that again to you. Never let other people affect the quality of your seed. The Bible said a sower went out to sow, and some fell on good ground, and some fell on the rock. And when it falls on a rock, you still gave them the best seed you have. And whatever they decide to do with it, then that's up to them. But you, as the provider of that seed, you have to make sure that that seed is full of love and joy and long-suffering, peace and kindness. And when you get these things, there is no rebelling against it. Nobody likes to be yelled at and hollered and screamed at. When you go to plant seeds, I've seen them go into the hospital room, they'll just go over and grab a hold of somebody and start shaking them, and we're going to pray for you and God's going to heal you. Unless God told you that, you shouldn't tell those people that. This is the kind of seed I plant. I remember going, before I ever went full-time in the ministry, I've been full-time 46 years. When I went into this little lady's house and she called me, and it was back when different races didn't have a relationship. And she'd heard me on the radio, and she called me and she said, Reverend Couch, I must see you. I'm dying. And I said, well, ma'am, I'm that's right on my way from work. I'll just stop by and see you. I was working at the time on a public job, and I went in, and the little lady was dark skinned, but she was and I loved her. And I walked in, and this place just stunk of death. It just reeked of death. Little lady, her legs and arms were about this big around, and she literally was dying. Her daughter told me the doctor said if she lives 4 or 5 days, it'll be a miracle. Well, see, the attitude that I went in there wasn't, I'm going to come in and everything's going to be great because I'm here, God's here. See, no, that's not true. God's there before you get there. And I went in and I began to talk to her, and she said, oh, Reverend Couch, I wanted to meet you before I died. And I said, baby, who told you that you were going to die? And she said, well, doctors told me I was going to die. I said, they can't tell you when to die, and they can't tell you when to live. I knew I had a seed in me. I was very young in the ministry, very young in the gospel, been saved less than a year. And I thought, I need to help this lady. And she looked at me and she said, I'm so weak, I can't get out of bed. And I looked at her and I said, ma'am, in a few minutes, I'm going to pray for you, and I want to see you set up. I was planting a seed. Be careful. The greatest thing God has ever given you is a seed to plant in other people's lives, not because of your arrogance, but because of His grace and His love. And I talked to her for about 20, 30 minutes and just ministered faith to her. Just talked to her, and we just talked one-on-one. In a few moments, I said, darling, I'm going to pray for you. And I prayed for her, and I mean, her body was just practically gone. And I laid my hands on her and prayed for her, just a really simple prayer. I went over and sat down, and I said, baby, why don't you try to sit up? She said, I can't sit up, Reverend. It's been 6 months since I've been able to get out of this bed. And I said, well, let's just try it. She looked at me and handed me her hand, and I said, darling, you already know I can get you up. And I wasn't being hateful. Sometimes you have to move back and let people see that they really have something on their own. Don't always be other people's strength. Hear this. Don't ever let people look at you as their strength, because then you become their God. And when you become their God, you're in danger from God, because He said, I won't have any other gods before me. And she looked at me and she struggled 15, 20, 25 minutes, it felt like, and the sweat just popped out of her. But finally, Mama was sitting up, and this grin came across her face. And she said, I did do it. I said, yes, ma'am, you sure did. She knew I could do that. She wasn't looking for me to be a God to her. Sometimes we're taught to let everybody else do it, but sometimes we have to do it ourselves. In a few minutes, she said her daughter had come in and she said, Mama, Reverend Couch, I'd have got her up. You didn't have to get her up. And I said, she said, Reverend Couch didn't set me up. I set up by myself. So I saw the seed beginning to grow. It was being cultivated. There was no arrogance on my part. It was just being kind to her. And she started to lay back, and her daughter said, I'll help you. She said, I will do this. And she laid back. In a few moments, she looked at me and she said, Reverend, I think I'll sit up again. And the daughter, she wasn't being mean, or she was just being helpful, and she started to go, because she knew her mama couldn't do it because she hadn't seen her. She ran over to the pillows and started getting the pillows. Her mama said, darling, I can do this. And without any hesitation, Mama just sat up, put the pillows behind her head. In a few minutes we were talking. She said, Reverend, would you wait outside for me? And I said, yes. She said, I want to get up. I haven't been up for a long 6 months. I want to get up. And so I go outside, and her daughter was telling me all about it. She had another daughter out there, and they were telling me how sick she was, and they'd already made the plans for her grave and how they were going to bury her. And a few moments, Mama come out, and I expected one of them little fuzzy robes, you know. Mama come out and she had on a pair of bibbed overalls, a flannel shirt, and a pair of brogade shoes and a straw hat. And I looked at her, and she had a fishing pole in her hand. And I said, Mama, how you feeling? She said, well, I told God the day he healed me, I was going to go fishing, so I'm going to go fishing. I had taken the seed that God has given me. See, the seed that you have is precious. The way you use it may not be. The arrogance you use it in may not be. And she said, Reverend, I thank you for coming, and I'm going to be fine. So about 6 months later, Sister Glenn and I, we'd gone full time, and we were back in that area in the home revival. And I kept hearing this little lady say, preach, Reverend, preach. And church was full. I'll never forget her face, her name. Those of you who know me know that. And so I went back and I said, Mama, tell me who you are. She said, the last time you saw me, I was going fishing. She said, I went back to the doctor and he told me there was nothing wrong with me. Said he thought I had died and had even sent me the last bill. She said, well, honey, just keep the bill. I'm fine. And that was from a seed. There's so much in you that's not just you. When you walk the streets, you're a seed of God. You're an example of Jesus Christ. And the kindness that you can bring and the joy that you can bring into people's lives. If you get that seed and you handle it correctly with love and understanding, then you're going to be able to say to yourself, you know what? That was a seed that came out of me. If it's in you, it needs to be planted. Some of you never have joy. You never have peace of mind. You never have understanding. It's because you don't understand other people. You've never brought joy into other people. You've never brought peace of mind into other people. Your seed is yet in the barn. There's not a farmer in the world, when it comes time to plant, and it's the season to plant, that they just lock their barn up and leave their seed back in the barn and go out 6 or 7 weeks later trying to get a harvest. We're trying to get harvest off of things that we've been selfish of. We're trying to get harvest. We want everybody to love us, but we don't love other people. How are you going to love other people, and how are you going to plant a seed if you don't care about yourself? Right now, there's so many of you watching me and will watch me as this broadcast goes on. And the one thing that you need in your life, there's a reason for it. And that reason is not because you're a sinner. It's not because God hates you. It's not because that somebody despises you and everybody don't like you. It's because the one seed that you have kept bound up in your bosom and you haven't planted it. It's the one thing that's taken away from the rest of your world. And it only takes one thing to destroy your world. When that one thing is not released, when you meet people and you greet people, how do you do that? If you meet people with a solemn look and a hard look, and I meet a lot of people I don't like, but they don't know that. Simply because I have a seed that's in me that I'm ready to help anybody. I'm not ready to help everybody because everybody don't want help. But if you really want help, I have a seed of love and a seed of joy. Encouragement is the greatest seed you'll ever plant in anybody's life. When you can just encourage people. When I told that lady that morning I was going to pray for her in that bed that she'd been in for 6 months, I didn't know whether God was going to heal her or not, but I didn't have anything to lose. I was trying to plant a seed of encouragement and a seed of faith. And when I planted that in her, it was there. So you can't give anybody anything that you don't have. Never expect anything out of a person that's not in them. If they're not generous, don't expect generosity. If they're not loving, don't expect them to give you love. You can't give anything you don't have. It's not yours. But when you begin to say to yourself, I have a barn here. This barn, the doors have been closed. I'm afraid to open the doors because I'm afraid someone will hurt me. Oh, how sorry I feel for you. I would rather try to help people and get hurt every day because I can get over it, as to not try to help people. And that one person that needs me, that I'm standing between the gap between them and hell, and I can encourage them, and I can bring that seed of faith or that seed of love or that seed of understanding, and I can plant that seed in them. You don't understand, just preaching the word is one thing, but changing lives. When you as a Christian person, when you walk down the street, you're an example of Christianity. You're not an example of you. You're an example of your pastor. You're an example of the people that have taught you. You're an example of people that have blessed you. I hear so many people saying to me all the time, so Reverend, I have a hard time dealing with people. I don't deal with people. I plant seeds and let them fall where they will. You could, if you plant a seed of bitterness, it's going to come back up in you. You can't plant bitterness unless there's bitterness in you. You can't plant hate unless there's hate in you. If there's hate in you, it's going to come out. If there's bitterness in you, it's going to come out. When people begin to fuss, I've watched married couples and men and women and boys and girls, and when they begin to fuss, you see all the bitterness come out. And everything they wanted to say, have they kept tied up. See, you keep the good and the bad tied up in you. But for some reason, it's easier to release the bad than it is the good. When you encourage people, someone down the road's going to bless you. When you have a kind word for somebody, someone down the road's going to have a kind word for you. Be ye not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. We have kept to ourselves. I watch Christians all the time, and there's two pet peeves that I have in the Christian world, and most of y'all know that follow me know one of them is bad singers singing in church. You know, I have that bad, I can't get over that. I don't understand that. I don't comprehend that. So it's always a problem for me. But the other is when Christian people are selfish, when they don't yield their self, they don't give their self. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about yielding themselves to be a blessing to other people. The other pet peeve I have is when Christians go to a restaurant to eat, they demand things out of people. You're an example of your, a lady told me not long ago, she said, when I see Christians coming here on Sunday, they have a hard time getting people to work on Sundays because it's Christians Day. She said, I watch these people and they don't give, they don't pay tips. There'll be 20 of them at a table and they'll give you a $2 tip. And then they say, we want you to come to our church. And she says, I always ask them, what's the name of your church? And when they tell her, she said, I go back and put it on a little pad and write it down, because they showed me what kind of Christians they were when they were here. What about that kindness that Christianity is supposed to have? What about that love? We don't have to worry about the devil destroying the church anymore. The Christian people do it so readily. They get up on Sunday morning and they don't hear what the preacher said. All they want to do is get home because the roast is going to burn or McDonald's is going to get their special off. They don't get up and just go home. They say, well, did you see what she wore, he wore, she wore? That's what's in them. And honestly, you can't take things out of people. They have to want to remove it. I have a seed in me, and I would rather give somebody something, give them love or give them understanding. I just left my heart doctor a moment ago, and I gave him some tapes, and he said, Reverend, he said, I don't think a normal person can understand the way you teach because it's so contrary to what we've all been taught. I said, I understand that because the Bible is not full of hate. It's not full of condemnation. Jesus said, neither do I condemn thee, go and sin no more. I have not come into the world to condemn the world. The church world they have this seed of condemnation. They want to find fault with everybody and everything. If you'll just show some love, have a seed of understanding. You don't know what kind of day those people have been. I have a good friend, I hope she's watching today, and she lives in Florida. And a lot of times she'll tell me, well, Rev, I was just sitting in a restaurant and I felt like paying for this person's meal. And she called me the other day and she said, I think it was 2 days in a row, I think that's right. She said, I went in and got my meal and went to pay for it and somebody already paid for it. It's because she planted that seed. See, whatever you want in life, plant seeds toward it. If you want a good marriage, be around people that have good marriages. See and listen to what they do. If you want to be a good Christian, get around good Christian people. Get around good Christian people and watch the examples that they set. When I go to a service, I never go with an expectation. And I've never been to a service that I didn't learn something. I either learned how to do things well or how not to do them at all. And that seed that those people had in them, it had to come out. There's a seed in you of blessing. There's a seed in you of healing. And just because you're going through some medical problems don't mean you can't get other folks healed. Just because you're going through a financial crisis don't mean you can't help other people financially. Some of the greatest blessings I've ever been and had was when I just didn't have anything and I shared it with people. And I was blessed. The seed of blessings, whatever you want, you should sow toward it. If you want a good career, you get around people that have had good careers. See what they're doing right and see what they may be doing wrong and just take the good part. I have mentors from around the world and I've been blessed with some of the greatest, but some of them I learned how not to do things from, and they was better blessing probably than the ones that I learned how to do things from. When you look at the seeds coming out of you, if I were to follow you, and I'd look around the people that follow you, what kind of seeds would I find? Would I find seeds of jealousy? The Lord required me to preach a message one time on jealousy, and I didn't understand it because I'm not jealous. I figured the time I could spend being jealous, if I'd spent that same time getting busy, I could outdo what the other people were doing. If I walked behind you and met everybody you met, and when you go to show people things, show it to them in kindness. The Bible said even when we rebuke people, rebuke them in the spirit of meekness. When you go to show people things and you go to discuss the word with them, let that word come out with such love and understanding, not, well, you should have known this, you should have known this, you should have known. Nobody's going to listen to you because that's an arrogance. That's an arrogance. Jesus changed the world. He changed the world simply because he spoke. And on the inside of him was so much understanding and kindness. You have things inside of you that are still in the barn, and they're doing you no good. They're doing you no good because you're selfish. Anybody that keeps their gifts, their knowledge, and their understanding encapsulated in their own being, they're not going to be blessed because they're selfish. They're very selfish. If you can't share your knowledge without being arrogant with it. I used to go to hear preachers preaching all the time. They'd say, I get this. I know you're not going to get this, but get this. And I'm thinking, if you think I'm so stupid, why are you even bothering with it? I can get it, Jack. Just say it. When you hear people say, well, I would have told them that, but they never understood, how do you know? Maybe it was the time that God sent you to put that seed of understanding in there. There are certain times. I remember Richard Hinton in Chicago. I went to preach for him one time, and I watched him say something, and I thought it was so mean and cruel. He did it in a good spirit with the laughter, but I thought, well, that's horrible. And he had a lady in the choir, and he said, I want all the choir members in here Sunday morning in a white blouse. And this one lady stood up and she said, Reverend Hinton, I don't have any money and I don't have a white blouse. He said, ma'am, do you have any faith? Do you have an anointing? She said, yes. He said, that anointing will bring you that white blouse. So we were there the next Sunday morning. This lady come in, she's just crying, weeping. He'd taken out of his knowledge the seed that God had given him. He pulled it out of his barn and put it in her. And she said, Reverend, I have to tell you something. Said, when you told me that the other day, I thought, Lord, have mercy. What are you going to do? And said, I went home. My husband never gives me anything. And this was back in the 70s. Never gives me anything. No money, nothing. Said he walked in and gave me $100 bill. He said, I want you to go get a nice outfit, and I want to make sure. Now, he didn't even go to the church. Make sure you get your pretty white blouse because you look so pretty in white. And she said, look, see how that seed opened that door? There's times when people around you need that seed that you have. Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. There's time when people around you need that love and that understanding. They're hurting on the inside. They're really hurting on the inside. And you have that seed that can heal them. God doesn't put people around your world by mistake. He puts people in your world like he did me in other people's world. The greatest mentors in the world that people would be proud. If you could see the list of the mentors I've had, God didn't put me around them so I could help them. He put me around them because they had the seed that I needed. And I gobbled those seeds up. I was hungry. And I've had people say things that I thought were hurtful to me, but it was some of the greatest instructions I ever received. And they were seeds that people pulled out of themselves and placed into me. Pulled out of themselves and placed into me. God is waiting. He's got people he's going to send around you. And you be very careful what kind of seeds you plant. You be very careful. That seed must be long-suffering, must be full of kindness and love. But when you plant it, it'll begin to grow and you'll see changes in people. You'll see changes in people. Our whole life is not just to be Christians. It's to change people. It's to take what God has given us and blessed us with. Given us and blessed us with. When I first went in the ministry, I'd preach things and I knew people didn't understand it. And it made me so arrogant. One night I was preaching in Carbon Hill, Alabama to a vast crowd, big crowd. And I knew nobody understood it. I knew that. And I was just so arrogant. I'm preaching and God spoke to me and he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm preaching your word. He said, they don't understand it. I said, well, it's not my fault they don't understand. Most of them have been saved longer than I am old, and just my arrogance was just coming out. And God said, son, what good are you doing? You're not helping them. You're not instructing them. You're just arrogant. Because I've blessed you with knowledge, you've become arrogant with it. And I stopped, backed up, started my message over again, and never used God's word with arrogance again. I'm talking to somebody today. I'm talking to many of you. You're the one. We need to change this world one person at a time. And when God sends people in your world, you already have the knowledge or he wouldn't put them around you. You already have the seed or he wouldn't put them around you. When you plant that seed, plant it with love and with kindness. Well, what if it doesn't grow? Then that's not your fault. You do the best you can with it, and God will do the rest. You do the best you can, God will do the rest. So this question to you, is the seed yet in the barn? Do you know people that God has put in your path for you to bless and to touch? Do you know people that come around you and they need help? What you need to do is say, I have a seed, I need to take it out of the barn. If you don't take that seed out and plant it, eventually the snakes will eat it up in the barn, the rats will eat it, the crows will fly in, and it'll become nothing to anybody. So you be careful, you be patient, but you be persistent in the fact that there's something in you that can help somebody. I'm going to pray right now. Heavenly Father, open their minds. Open our understandings to this word. Help us to understand how important we are. We're not bastard sons. We're sons of a living God, full of knowledge, grace, and the understanding of God and the love of God. You have given us things and tools to help people with. Give us the ability and the understanding that we are so important in your kingdom, that someone might not be healed, might not be saved, might not be blessed if we don't open the barn and take the seed out and begin to plant it. Let us plant it correctly and properly. And let us correct as we can. In the precious and wonderful name of Jesus Christ, I pray. To you that I'm speaking to, God's healing some of you. There's going to be blessings take place. And you get ready for it. Don't forget us this week. Go to our PayPal. Leave something, the biggest offering you can. Do something special to help us this week. We also want you to know that you can send us an offering at Post Office Box 28, Mountain City, Tennessee, 37683. We also want you to know this great camp meeting is going to be here quicker than you think, and you don't want to miss it. Make your plans now. If you fly in, you have to come into Tri-Cities and Tri-Cities Airport in Johnson City, Bristol area, and we'll make sure you have some kind of transportation to get to your hotels and get to the meetings. So if you're going to be with us, you need to make your reservations soon. Check my website this coming week. All the information will be there for you. I'm praying for you. I trust you pray for me. Don't forget me. Give me a love offering this week. Touch us and send something special. It's Reverend John David Couch saying, if God hadn't been with you, you wouldn't have made it this far. May God bless you and may God bless America.